Dear Venerable and Sisters, this is our time allocated for the question and answer session. The written questions are there. The first, I will take the English questions, and then the singular. The majority are in English. It is good. And meanwhile, if you have any other comments or any other questions, you may join as the session is going on. Venerable Sir, I have only one enemy that I most hated. I remember her every time. How come I reduce hate towards her? So I remember a joke, and when we were learning Metta Sutta, I become high ordination, and I went to the Buddhist Publication Society, and there was one Mr. Seneve Veerakon, and he was teaching us some Pali. And there, while he was teaching this Metta Bhavana, he says that he has a neighbor, one lady. Daily she is doing Metta Bhavana in a way of recitation, and she says, may all the beings be healthy, wealthy and happy, except, and then telling a very bad name to the neighbor. And reciting very loudly, it seems. May all the beings be healthy, wealthy and happy, except, and by word, by name, mentioning that name. And one day he has gone and told it is not to do, and she says, can't help, this is happening. It is such a ingrained. So therefore that these are the kind of karmic forces. So it happens. So anyway, if you know it, this kind of case, it's a one step ahead, and when you know, this is, I have only one enemy that I most hated, and that means I would say that enemy is not that lady you hate. If you can recognize, the hate is the one boiling your blood, giving you a heart attack, and all the kind of troubles. So if you can see impersonified matter as the hate as such, of course it is coming out of this person, there is a personification of the hate, but if you can know how to depersonify, and then you can see the hate as such. And still as a lay person, when I used to go to Nilambe, there was one Dr. Fernando, and at that time this Tamil terrorism is now coming up. And there was a story telling that the Tamil terrorist leader, the Velupille Prabhakaran, was in Panadure, and he was with his uncle, and uncle was running a temple or kovila for the gods. And all of a sudden this the terrorist Tamil against kind of a movement came, and people, till that everyone was very harmonized, and Singlish people, Buddhists also go to that kovila, shrine room for the god, and this particular person going to give sermons and kind of, so all of a sudden the Tamil against kind of a riot came, and people went to that, pulled the fellow back to the main road and killed him, and put into the boiling the barrel. And Prabhakaran was at that time about very young age, and he has seen people are very happy with his uncle, but all of a sudden this came and pulled him out of his shrine and killed him and put into this. And he can't understand what is happening. Ultimately it became a kind of obsessed hate upon him. He has thought that I will kill in the same way all the Sinhalese. That is what he learned, because according to the lesson. This may be true or not, but what the Dr. Fernando told me, instead of seeing the people killing and hatred comes, if he can see the hatred depersonified and if he to decide to get rid of hatred rather than the single-is, he would have become a saint because he is such a genius person. But unlucky enough, he see the hate, he tried to get rid of single-is rather than the hatred because of personification. Instead, it happened him to see this is hatred is the matter, therefore I must try my best to get rid of the hatred within me and out, then he would have worked out in a completely different way. This is the danger of atta and anatta. So whenever we analyze something, we usually personify it because we fail to see Dhamma as Dhamma, and therefore that particular person becomes the target. But instead what you have to do is see it's a personification of the hatred. So your whole effort must be to depersonify it. Then you can see a lot of positive and productive ways to get rid of. Otherwise, it has become very involved and tensed and immediate problem. But if you take it as a hatred, quiet and calm, you can work it out. But as far as this, very difficult. So my suggestion is just see hatred as the main enemy and depersonify it and try to note it as and when it arises, more earlier the better, so you can understand it is coming out of a very neutral position and take the shape of the hate, and once it's gone, without your attention, that means if you are negligent, it go beyond the level so that it takes the wrong notion, it is a personification. And when you are personifying the person, the hate at that person, you personify yourself also with a huge ego and kind of a motivation, then the fight happens. Depersonification is not so easy, but that is what we have to understand in terms of vipassana. But in samatha way, you radiate metta. In order to just suppress that kind of a malevolent thought, that is what we call the hatred within you, because that is the main root cause for all the mental diseases. When one say doing Bodhi Puja Kammanda, adhering to rites and rituals, Silabbata Paramasa. Thank you, Bhante. It's a statement, it's not a question, it appears. When Bhante doing Bodhi Puja Kammanda, adhering to rites and rituals, Silabbata Paramasa. It's a statement, there is not necessary to have my comments, but this is not my statement, one of the yogi statements. Venerable Bhante, with much respect, after long years of Anapanasati meditation, if someone has achieved the smallest tiny glimpse of the Sankarupeka level of the mind, I would beg your advice to advance this mind status. At present, the writer is experiencing the inner grasping of the saying ditte ditte mattang, which the eye consciousness and also with the other sense bases. Although the camera is taking photos with the eye consciousness, negative are not developed. This sankhara or the story developing or the negative developing faculty is broken down and feel an emptiness but happy in the mind. I was advised by another meditation master that this is a glimpse of Sankarupeka of the mind. Whenever does this situation also have a connection to Dassana Pahatabba? These situations happen all of a sudden in a shock. So this is a if I grasp the idea, this is a real appreciation of what the Buddha is teaching. Whether this is really happening or not, I can't perceive, because it is kind of a very intimate thing. At least accepting the fact that that you will not keep on going on storytelling, story making or development of the negative. So this is a kind of a good start, and if it is going to give, as the questions, this is smallest tiny glimpse of Sankarupeka, it is not quite a distance achievement object for a meditating mind. It is happening most of the time, and then onward you have to change your lifestyle, you change your all the kind of things so that you can maximize it. That is what we call bahulikata, or seasoning again and again by giving more and more conducive condition, whereby you will be not taken for a ride or carried away by what you have seen, what you are hearing, what you are experiencing. Instead, understanding the mechanism of seeing, understand the mechanism of hearing, understand the mechanism of tactile sensation, just like opening a camera and see what is happening, or see what is happening in this voice recorder. What is the mechanism? The voice recorder does not have any kind of a sensor regarding the content of what I am telling, that good or bad, Buddhist or non-Buddhist. No, it is just recording. Just like in the tactile sensation, consider this as a machine and don't add something on or story making. And if it is possible, it's a matter of appreciation of what the Buddha is teaching, and you have tried and you got a little glimpse, and then onward you have to maximize it. That is called facilitating. Anugaha, more and more facilitating, you get frequent occurrence, just like a target shooting. Whenever you give a try, at the beginning very difficult to aim at the target because your amateurhood, and more you develop, ultimately you hit the target once and then you get happiness. But next shot, not sure. But without giving up, if you keep on shooting, ultimately you will increase the frequency. That is how it has to happen. So therefore this is something possible and something to be appreciated. If someone has achieved. But only precaution I am telling, don't assume that I am at that state and this state, and it will undermine your all progress in the inside, thinking that maybe that there is a chance for developing the conceit, developing kind of wrong views and the desire for that. So even the stanza that I cited, it says, Ubhavante viditwana majjemantana lippati. Knowing both the ends, you will definitely assimilate the middle path, but don't get attached to the middle path. That is the way you can do away with this viva, the tanha, the desire. Then only you will be called, you are worth calling a great man. But if you get attached to the middle path, it becomes yet another attachment, and it is subtle. So if you know the danger of it, that means getting attached to the middle path, so also danger. Knowing that only you can get the maximum out of the middle path. Sadhu Bhante, could you please clarify the following? Isn't it easy, or won't it be easy to see each stage, the beginning, middle and the end of the in and out breathing, which you are in jhanic stage? As my understanding, samatha meditation is by first developing the jhana. This enable you to sit for longer duration of time without getting disturbed. So you can easily achieve these tasks. it is that whenever you go to the excellent level of jhanic stages, your pondering mind, inquiring mind is really absorbed. So therefore, you are not analyzing the object, the beginning, the middle and the end. But you may argue in the first jhana, still the applying thoughts and the discursive thoughts are there. But it is not being employed. It is just you apply into the object. Therefore, the inquiring mind, the analytical part is not in the jhana. So therefore, what is prescribed by the Buddha is, you go to a jhana and experience a span of time without 5 hindrances, and after that you emerge, you get out of that jhana, and still you get the momentum. During that time also, there are no cause kind of nivaranas working. So within that period, you can apply the mind in the vipassana way to see the object in a very clear way, the precise aiming and diligent effort. Therefore, within the jhana, it is not recommended. Whenever you do, you are disturbing the free flow or the unturbulent flow of the jhanic experience or jhanic bliss. Venerable Bhante, during the busy day-to-day routine, if one often remembers the equanimity felt during meditation, could this be an upaklesha and attraction to the nikanti towards the equanimity? Whenever you are in the day-to-day routine, and when the mind is swaying from towards the gratification of sense pleasure or towards the mortification of your self-mortification, then you start to feel the stress, the neurotic situation. And then you feel the bliss of equanimity, which you experience in the meditation. When that happens, if the mind naturally becomes equanimous, then there won't be much of a danger, but by just remembering the equanimity, but it is not making any service, doing any help you to bring the mind into the middle path, that is maybe just mere attachment to your equanimity, but it is not helping. So therefore, best thing is to make use the equanimity by remembering what you experience in the meditation. Could this be one reason contributing to the difficulty in establishing mindfulness in day-to-day activities? No, there is no such a relation. You can find it. That means by remembering equanimity, what you experience in sitting, and in the day-to-day activities, there won't be much of relationship with the difficulty in establishing mindfulness in the day-to-day activities, because equanimity and the mindfulness are parallel kind of mental conditions. They are helping each other, and that cannot be a direct hindrance or disturbance to develop the mindfulness. And this condition caused by the bhava asrava. Is this? No, there is no such a relationship, difficult to find. But whenever you are in the meditation, and when you are experiencing the equanimity, due to the equanimity, if you lose the main object, that is the danger that cause damage in the meditation. By remembering the equanimity, what you experience in the meditation, in the day-to-day activities, it's a very meager, very distant relationship, so therefore difficult to go into thinking on these relationships. Venerable Bhante, after long years of Anapanasati meditation and for a few years having gone to deep samadhi, and after waiting in it for a long period, and then having got the awareness of the Vedana or the thought, and having contemplated on each of those thoughts as impermanent, athima sanathima, now the situation has changed. The samadhi that I get now appears by the body becoming very light and diverting the mind to inside by becoming aware of the elements like extreme tightness of the chest, like a hard rock being inserted into the chest. Yes, Venerable Bhante, please advise the thing. Please advise these things happen automatically. So, what do you mean the early part? If the meditation, when in the meditation, mindfully, if you are experiencing these kind of elementary characteristics, and as specifically mentioned, these things happen in the automatically, the advice given, the simple advice is, don't recognize it with your bodily parts, just see the hardness as hardness, softness as softness, and whatever maybe it appears, if you try to recognize it as the chest or leg or kind of thing, that is the way you try to insert unwanted, the conventional part into that. Instead, the best is to see the hardness, see the lightness, whatever the elementary characteristic, that is the pure Dhamma, rather than seeing as part of your body. So that is the way you have to train, so that they will happen more frequently. So you will be taken into the highest momentum, good speed, rather than checking it with you or connecting it with your bodily parts. Whenever you are going to try to understand the bodily parts, that you are pulling your meditation to the conventional rather than to the absolute. So what you have to do is facilitate it to go to the absolute by, without recognizing or assuming with the parts, but to see the nature, the natural characteristics or the elements as such. Could you please define the sensational transfer as the term you used in your talk today? Recently I read a book known as The Blink by Gladwell, and it is not directly talking about the Buddhism or something like that, but it says some kind of good points where you can pick for the insight meditation. In the book, in the halfway, there's one example. I will cite the example as such, so I think equally you can get the idea. He says the Coca-Cola was the most famous and the worldwide drink happened in the world. So all of a sudden, yet another drink, maybe Sprite or something like that, came popular, and they proved, when they put this Sprite and the Coca-Cola and put into the tasting panel, the Sprite appear more, Sprite is getting more higher marks. And then this particular person, after he is hired by the Coca-Cola company, and he was giving a thought, what to do now. The whole demand, attention has shifted from the Coca-Cola to Sprite. And the tasting panel, neutrally they give that the markings by sipping, Sprite is better. So he was thinking, instead of the first sip, what happened, a person is going to drink the total, complete can. The first sip give a impression for the first time, but he is going to drink the whole can, sip by sip. When he is reaching to the end of the can, what is the impression? And the completely total difference. Because as the paper goes, Sprite is having more sugar, so the first sip give a very attraction to the tasting panel. But if you keep on doing, And that sugar will burn the taste buds. And towards the end, it is not going to give that much of a taste or thrill or attention. But the Coca-Cola is maintaining a kind of a taste. It maintains its taste, persistent. So therefore, if you give a panel a chance to drink it in a beach, having a Coca-Cola or having a Sprite in the seat, and drink up to the end of the can, their opinion is changing. Because the first impression is the one they were using at, but this particular person has suggested the sensational transference when you keep on drinking the same can for number of sips. So this is a very common phenomena, and he took it as a thesis or philosophy or a hypothesis. This is very clear, and when we feel very hungry, and if someone give a full plate of rice with all the Sri Lankan way, the curries and kind of thing, the very first morsel appears so delicious, so happy. And we feel thankful to the person, and we feel we are very lucky because in our hungry time we got a full plate of rice. But when you go to the second morsel, third morsel, ultimately you will end up with telling enough. Because your stomach is filled. And then onward you may not feel so much of thankful the last morsel to the person who has given. Like the first morsel. It is natural. So this is called sensational transference. And in Sinhala, it says, Devele dakina kukulage karmala mevele pene sakasema suduvela. If you are going to see the same thing again and again, this loveliness and all the kind of thing, is fade off. That is what is usually happening after the marriage. That is the sensational transference. And therefore, the love before the marriage and after the marriage is a completely two different stories. I am sorry, I am not married, but I have read. So this is what happened. The Buddha says, just by a glimpse on the breath, and after seeing you see, I see the breath, Buddha says, good, it is good. But keep on observing, then the sensational transference happens. That is the what more conducive for towards the seeing things as they are. So this is called meditation, observing the same thing again and again from the different perspective. That is called different facets. And therefore, meditation always select an object recurrently happening, and incessant manner, you observe it again and again, just not to run into an inference or a decision. Instead you increase the observation. You do a broad feasibility report or feasibility study before drawing the plan, before going to the implementation. This is what the meditation. So in the Anapanasati, the Buddha has encouraged to see at least these 11 facets. That is what he gave the comprehensive way. You have to see the Anapana in the past form, the present form and the future form. It is very difficult to understand what is the originally the Buddha meant by the past, the present and the future. But if you take the situation where you come to a very subtle form of breath, sometimes you feel no breath for the moment, but you feel it is appearing. Slowly it is appearing. I usually recognize this as the future form. It was not here, but if you are patiently wait, it appears. But when it appears, and if you are patiently wait, it will again go to the disappearance, and again you will come to a pause. There is no breath again. And it was there, now it is not there. That is a past form. And sometimes you feel the breath as it happens, this is the present form. And the breath has a dear and attractive form, and very inert and distractive form. It has the close and far away, in and out, gross and subtle. So these are the facets. So till you see all these things, all these facets, you must not give up the observation. And the Buddha, giving a very encouraging kind of a statement, he says to Venerable Rahula, if you happen to see all the facets of breath during your living, your last breath also happen mindfully with the awareness. If you are not familiar with the breath during your lifetime, the last breath happen with the complete bewilderment. You will be completely lost into the situation, thinking it is the end of the life and all the kind of thing. In order to avoid that kind of a haphazardness or bewilderment, you have to train all the 11 facets. 11 facets means the sensational transference. The gross breath becomes subtle, slowly. Very attractive and appreciable breath becomes slowly inert, nothing. What is this like? Sometimes it is appear like very close and you feel far away. Sometimes you feel it is happening within your body. Sometimes you feel like outside the body. Sometimes you feel appearing breath. Sometimes you feel the disappearing breath. Sometimes you feel breath under your very nose. So all these give different sensations for a particular person. Therefore, he comes to know one glimpse or the superficial value is a kind of a half knowledge, and drawn inferences out of this half knowledge is not durable and rather dangerous. So that is why you have to observe it for a long time. Then only you can claim that you have seen it. Venerable one said, today I had a very unusual visual experience during my evening sitting. Gradually my mind got completely introvert and I started visualizing something like a 3D TV screen, but all like small particles, and experienced a very bad smell. It was really very unusual. Is it an important practice in the practice? Please explain. So the smell you can't recognize as the visual experience, but it's going to say the visual experience also change and then together with the bad smell. But visual experience appear, there is nothing unusual when the sensational transference happens. This is what what we can expect. The different shapes and different manners and different presentation, different, it is called shapes and the manners, are going to happen through the very breath or very your object of meditation. So you must be open and unprejudiced to see all the possible facets, all the possible shapes and the manners, and then unbelievable thing can happen. So that is the way the physics now it has happened. At the beginning we are being taught this is copper, this is zinc, and this is aluminium, this and that. But if you cut into the small pieces, the aluminium has its own atoms or molecules, and a zinc has different molecules. But when you go to the molecular level, you don't see the under the microscope the color, the shape and kind of thing under the microscope. But when you go to the molecule, to the atom, it's a completely different thing. And when you go from the atom to the particles, it's completely different. And when you still go further, all the particles and quarks and go into the energies, and you can hardly understand the energies of aluminium versus energies of copper versus energies of zinc. Energies is energies. So then you get bewildered. When it is given a chunk of aluminium, zinc and this thing, it is discrete. It has its own specific gravity and its own all the qualities. But when you reduce and go to the common character comes, the observer gets completely bewildered. So that is the point. The energy become particles and particles become energy, and then situation become quite unpredictable. And ultimately you have to understand the non-local phenomena, unpredictability, and that is what the Buddha put in the simple term. It is changing. It is impermanent. It never maintains a single facet, always changing. So therefore, when you are observing the breath, go deep and deep with the mindfulness and the concentration, it is like you are putting it under an electron microscope. And go layer by layer deep into that. And hardly any scientist will accept by straightening the mindfulness and the concentration you can penetrate into. They believe upon the electron microscope or telescopes. But some scientists are bold enough to say, even the electron microscope is so sharp and so focused, the person who look at it is a fool, he see only the foolishness. Nothing but the foolishness. It depends on the observer, not the gadget. So that is why what you see, that you are come into being. The Buddha, he expressed it 2600 years ago, yena yena manyati tato tanghoti anyata. Whatever upon which you are going to think, by very thinking it becomes something other. It becomes transferred. It becomes impermanent. So therefore, observe again and again to see this. Ultimately you will see every mental and physical phenomena share the same quality, that is changing nature, impermanent nature. Till that you have to observe. And I think this appearing of the 3D and spots or kind of thing is a possible way. It is small particles and experience a very bad smell. These are two different things, but really unusual, because our usual thing is something permanent. We are looking at the world with the notion of permanence. We have no any idea about notion of impermanence, anicca sanya. So therefore when you're stuck with this kind of thing, you call it unusual, but this is the usual thing the Buddha says. What we see as permanent is the unusual thing. So you are going back at home, but when you, from that point, if you look at the world, you don't know what is usual and what is unusual. That is why the Buddha says, Sabbe Bhutujjana Ummattaka. So everyone is deranged. All the sansaric beings are dislodged and deranged. So therefore their interpretations and everything is completely tupsi-turvi. So wait till you see the what you call usual and unusual, what you call permanent and impermanent, then you can make a fair judgment about this world, about this sansara, about one's own being. So till that you have to keep on observing. This is what we call vipassana. Venerable Sir, the talks you are delivering to us are invaluable because they are so profound. You have complained to us how the defilement can conquer us, and ways and means to keep ourselves safe from the being defiled. But sir, I would like to know why you give priority to the Kayanupassana and not give much activity on actually to the Dhammanupassana or Chittanupassana as method of eradicating defilements. I wholeheartedly respect your teaching. Of course, this is, I am not giving the priority to the Kayanupassana. It is the stepping stone. It is the starting point. So in Vipassana, even though it is going to the very deep and profound thing, most important thing is the start, the beginner's mind. So if you are assured the start, definitely Dhamma will lead you to the depth. But if you are worrying about the end, and forgetting about the start, that means you are ever leading to the difficulties and complications. So therefore, always be a beginner and start with the ABC. Whenever you start, if you manage to cope up with the Kayanupassana, that the materiality, definitely you will be gradually leading to the Vedananupassana, and then to Chittanupassana, Dhammanupassana. So therefore, Kayanupassana start with the neutral object. You have to develop enough amount of concentration and the mindfulness. And then when the pain arises, you can see the pleasurable feelings and the painful feelings are the two extremes where our mind is always bound, obsessed with. This is the function of the tanha. Tanha is the desire is always binding, pleasurable and painful, and make the complete picture complete. But in between there is a middle path that is called no pain, no pleasure kind of feelings. Our mind can't read it. Because when the pleasurable happens, we will be obsessed, we will be bewildered by the anusaya regarding the raga anusaya. When the painful happens, we will obsess with patiga anusaya, and therefore we fail to see in between. What you have to do is, you have to calm down the pleasure and the pain to the very subtle level. When the pain and pleasure becomes subtle, calm down, you end up with rather no pain, no pleasure. What happens is, when the no pain, no pleasure comes, you get up and go telling meditation is boring. Meditation is no taste. Meditation is bewildering. Meditation is sleepy. And meditation is monotonous. So therefore, the ignorance is hiding you, leading you other way around, not to see the no pain, no pleasure. So, supposing you manage and come to the no pain, no pleasure, that becomes the middle path. And that is the only one can lead you from the Kayanupassana to the Vedananupassana to the Chittanupassana. So therefore, when the pain and the pleasure feeling happen, if you look at the pain and the pleasure in the indifferent mind or non-reactional way, the choiceless way, with the mindfulness, you never be elated with the pleasure or be full of hate with the pain. You feel them as feelings, that means non-reacting, non-agitation, and then pain and the pleasure. You can see how it arising from beginning to the middle and the end. Pain as well as the pleasure, ultimately you manage to see even the pain and pleasure come and try to shake you, to see the beginning of it and the end of it. So that means you are going down slowly to the datum line. When you go to the datum line, it is almost no pain, no pleasure. And when that happens, it is, you are bound to fall asleep. The monotony happens. The fearfulness happens. You feel like lost. And that as the early experience is, you get strange kind of smells. You get strange kind of jerks. You can smell kind of strange kind of tastes. And thinking. All the kind of happens because you are going to known to unknown. So therefore mind make or ego make all panoramic mental creations. So therefore you have to understand, when you are going through this middle path, all what happens, don't get moved by, believe upon the Buddha, the Dhamma and the Sangha, check whether you are mindful or you are imagining. If you are in mindfulness, you have to let go these things, and then it is lead to the Chittanupassana. That means you can feel so much of inner thoughts are there, whether you like it or not. If you observe them, or if you see through them, and still if you manage to see your primary object or manage to make sure you are mindful and the concentration, you see these thoughts are without the owner, or thought without a thinker. There's no thinker. So if you are going to worry them and weigh them and see good thinking and bad thinking and worrying, that you are creating a thinker. That's why Mark Epstein wrote a book, Thought Without a Thinker. Ultimately you find, so far what you have done is, you are going to analyze these inner thoughts and ultimately end up with the tension, end up with the frustration. They are thoughts just happening, and unless otherwise you manage the pleasure and pain and go back to the neutral feeling, unless you manage to see the in-breath and out-breath and come back to the calming down the in-breath, very difficult to teach. Just look at them and don't get moved by, don't get carried away, just observe, then they also calm down. And there it is not the end of thinking, you become indifferent to thinking, feelings and elementary characteristic of the materiality, and then only the middle path is leading. So in a talk or in this thing, very difficult to tackle all the kind of thing. Again, but I am repeating, if you are skillful in the materiality or Kayanupassana, the others are, it's just a repetition of the same. It's only the changing of the facet, Vedana, Chitta and Dhamma. So you have to understand how to improvise it, how to improvise the Kayanupassana into the Vedana and Dhamma. And of course it is profound, but the most important thing is the balance and simple entering into the first stage of your meditation. That is why it says you must be always a beginner. Don't assume yesterday I had a very good Kayanupassana, therefore today I start with Vedananupassana. And yesterday I had Kayanupassana, Vedananupassana, today I start with Chittanupassana. There is no such. Daily you have to start as a beginner. Yeah, that he could make it a main practice. He used the choiceless awareness as the main theme. It was first introduced by the No Boundaries by Ken Wilber. Ken Wilber is the first coined this term, choiceless awareness, and it was such an attraction for the Godwin. Ultimately, Godwin wanted to go and meet the person. Sorry, who? Ken Wilber. Ken Wilber. And no, not the Krishnamurti. And then he was using this choiceless awareness. And choiceless awareness equally you can use to the Kayanupassana, that means materiality and mentality. But many feel that choiceless awareness is much tallying with the Chittanupassana, that the mentality, mental aspects. So it gives a quick as well as a dramatic kind of a change. But even if you are going to feel that kind of a good thing and you feel highly religious and you feel highly intellectual and spiritual, but whenever this kind of a quality is gone or any mishap happen, you don't know how to start again with the ABC method. Definitely you can go with the mental side, but whenever the other economic, social or any kind of calamity happens, very difficult to go because that ABC method is not. Maybe I am too much critical on that part, but anyway it is safe to start with Kayanupassana, Vedananupassana, Chittanupassana, Dhammanupassana method. Many may think it is too much of Montessori and going for the very early part, but it's a foolproof system, starting from the gross to the subtlety. So, therefore, many criticized in the Godwin's method, telling there's no meditation method. He just close his eyes and just see what is happening. It's only basically on the thoughts. And in me, it did not work. I don't know why, but in the Godwin's case, it was a success story. He managed to do it, and Nilamba, those who have gone to the Nilambe, they are finding, some of them find it is easy for them to go into the very direct touch of the spirituality and the inside meditation to the Chittanupassana. So, but anyway, as far as I am as a person is concerned, I asked this question from Venerable Jnanarama, it was very difficult for me to communicate with him because he was such a traditional master. He always start with ABC. But I remember when I was in Panditarama, another person gave a question to the Pandita Sayadaw and gave this kind of experience about choiceless awareness. And Sayadaw handled it, and he told, this may be completely a mental game, and if it collapses, you don't know how to build it. Even it is building on the same experience, therefore better to start with something verifiable, something tangible, something gross. And it is making no any harm, and even you start with the ABC. But exactly you can apply this choiceless awareness thing to in-breath and out-breath, or rising and falling. Equally you can add mental part also. So nowadays in Sri Lanka there are 2-3 traditions. They usually criticize the method employed by the Kayanupassana, thinking it is very preliminary and Montessori. Instead we can go to the Vedananupassana, we can go to the Chittanupassana, we can go to the Dhammanupassana like. But if you read the book Satipatthana by Venerable Analayo, he also accepts. He quote from the Tripitaka, Kayanupassana, Vedananupassana, Chittanupassana, Dhammanupassana, whatever may be, according to your karmic forces and the accumulation of the perfections and the personality traits, you can cut through the first Magga Jnana or go to the Sotapanna. That means directly from the Kayanupassana you can go become Sotapanna. Vedananupassana also stepping stone to go into the first jnana with Chittanupassana, Dhammanupassana. And he says, the Buddha has given, if you wish to go to the Arahanthood, definitely you have to have all the 4, otherwise it is not. So with that argument, definitely one can say, going to Sotapanna is enough. So therefore, why not start with the Vedananupassana, Chittanupassana, Dhammanupassana. So I keep is open. What is more appealing, what is more giving a touch for you to have the mindfulness is the way that I look at it. If the mindfulness is installed in the good way, either by Kayanupassana, Vedananupassana, Chittanupassana, Dhammanupassana, whatever may be, for my understanding, keep the mindfulness as the criterion and see whatever may be the method of contemplation supporting the mindfulness. Dear Bhante, when one observes the same routine repeatedly, when one observes the same routine repeatedly during the Anapanasati meditation, breath in bracket vipassana, if there is a boredom, if there's a boredom, is the best way to deal with it is to try and watch the beginning, the middle and the end of that feeling. Is there any other suggestion to deal with this situation? Is this condition resulting from Patiga Anusaya? It's a good question. Definitely, whenever you go to the known to the unknown, and basically when you come to the no pain, no pleasure kind of situation, the boredom sets in because our mind was conditioned and in a rut in the pleasure-seeking game. So it is no pleasure because it is medium, so boredom and this thing happen. And the question itself is suggesting to watch the beginning, the middle and the end of that feeling, that end of the boredom, end of the monotonous feeling, end of lost, end of alien feeling. And there also you have to understand, when the first time it happens, you see the already grown, well-matured boredom, well-matured monotony, well-matured lost feeling. And therefore, by that time, if you are not prepared, of course by that time you are, usually beginner is not prepared, the hatred sets in, or you try to get rid of this boredom or monotony. And as far as the hatred is there, you can't shoot directly into the boredom, and you are the loser. So knowing that, when Jnanarama came out and he suggested, if it is happening, and still if you know you have gone through a certain amount of extent with the primary object and end up with the boredom, when you go to the next time in sitting, go prepared. So that you can see the boredom as and when it's sitting in. And there you get a better chance, and your hatred, the patikanusaya, is not much mature enough. So you can see how it happens, how it emerges whenever the neutral feeling happens. So you will be better off, and while keep on observing, again and again by going prepared, you can see how the boredom sets in. And when it happening, you will equally, by the theoretical backing or your own, you will say, it become bored because of your patiga or ill will as an underlying tendency. If you happen to see, if you manage to see your contribution of patiganusaya or underlying tendency, you have to understand, as far as this patiganusaya is there, the feeling of boredom will never be a wisdom, never will be look at it in a correct perspective. So you have to do away with, or you have to understand patiga or underlying tendencies. Then you see the basic root cause for this sansaric journey is the desire, and the root cause for the nibbana is this relinquishment or feeling less tasty. So this is a very good product of your meditation. Because of your patiganusaya, you see it as a negative, because your mind is trained with this pleasure-seeking game or the pleasure principle. So you have to change this patiganusaya, and now you are on the way of disenchanting. The boredom and the monotony is the symptoms of this disenchantment. The day you see it from the wisdom, you will understand this is the way my middle path is working. This is the way Yoniso Manasikara is happening. So that day onward you will contribute, or you will look at the boredom and the monotony as a good sign, and your perspective will be changed. Then onward you will leap, you will run fast forward and appreciate the method of meditation. Otherwise it will be a discouragement, otherwise you will do away with due to this patiganusaya. So it is a very tricky place. That is why you have to have the teaching of the Buddha. I mean, your mind must be prepared, and you must share with other people also. Don't think this boredom and the other thing is a mistake of you, or it is your inefficiency or your bad luck. It is an important hurdle as you are bound to see. But it's a matter of looking at it from the correct perspective. So therefore, up to the mark where you develop this nibbida jnana, nibbida means this disenchantment. Till it becomes a jnana, usually it appears like something hateful, something irritant, something discouraging. Due to this patiganusaya, your underlying tendency of ill will. So once it is gone, and if you see it as a healthy outcome of your vipassana meditation, then it will take the stand of wisdom base, jnana base. Then onward, the meditation will give a different face value, different appreciation for the insight yogi. So this boredom is a good sign, but sometimes at the early stages it can happen due to your other weaknesses, something like lack of moral restraint or mental imbalances. But this is happening in the very early stages. You can't go up to that level if you have any physical and mental ill health. If there are also this kind of thing happen, and you will be pushed off. But even if you have a good moral and the physical and mental good health, you are bound to meet this. So if you know that it's one of the wisdom or knowledge, then you have to go prepared, understand the undermining or perverted nature of this ill will, and there it will, you have to understand, you have to do yourself. No one can help you on that moment. And once you sorted it out, your likings and disliking, your personality, your everything will be reshuffled slowly.
Endangering our practice.
But the thing is, before meditation, before come up to that level, if you are going to entertain or appreciate boredom, it leads to self-mortification. So therefore, till that the message comes from that side, you must not appreciate it, you must not go for that. That is going into the mortification. So once the meditation come up to that level also, only you have to employ this wise reflection or recognize as and when it happens. Otherwise, you will, you will go against the pressure principle. You will go against the gratification of sense pleasure. And Buddha says at the outset that is something not to be appreciated. So till the meditation, in the meditation, when the proper stage, it will come as a suggestion. It come again and again, nothing to worry. One day you have to have a radical reflection and see it as a blessing in disguise, that means changing from the patiga anusaya to wisdom. Then onward, there you can make a society if there is enough yogis successful. Could you please explain whether the manayatana or the manovinyana acts as a storage of asava? In one occasion you mentioned one carries asava from past lives. Therefore, I would like to know how this is carried. If, for example, one's previous birth was an animal, then there could be a lot of asavas to be carried over. Yeah, that and this is something like reincarnation and understanding how these karmic forces transfer into the other life. This is present day, it's a very huge issue, East as well as the West. But there's a macro level of living one life and transferring to the next life. But the same thing happens from moment to moment. Because vijnana is something created then and there. The Buddha has mentioned, vijnana is happening due to the eye and the visual object, the chakku vijnana is happening. If there is no eye or if there is no visual object, no chakku vijnana. And it is valid only for one thought moment. Next moment, the same vijnana will appear like a sota vijnana. So therefore vijnana is, there is no such a thread-like continuity. It is then and there happening. So more than taking the event of death, death and the birth, it is the moment to moment it happens. So if you remember 10 years before, you can remember some kind of events or some kind of a background where it was, and you can question, are you the same person 10 years before and the now? You have both yes and no answers. And when the changes happen, no one knows. But if you reduce to the thin slicing of the time, moment to moment, that is also happening. So how it continues from one to the other. It's a very, very tricky, but I know the Abhidhamma and the commentarial way, they try to give a theoretical answer that in the linear system, in the existing grammar and existing language, but it is not so easy. when you are, if you are to experience it. So therefore, very difficult to reduce and say it is deposited in the Manovinyana. If that is the case, you have to accept Manovinyana as a permanent thing or consistent thing. It is a consistent but happening then and there. Rising then and there, but the forces are going. So this Professor Ganil Dhanwadana, he tried to cope up this gap and try to answer from the quantum physics. He says in the quantum sphere, sometimes energy quantum will disappear here and appear again in another place, because it has to balance the what do you call, the field. I think that's the quantum field. So therefore some kind of a quantum, a special thing, and appear like working the field, and it can disappear from here and has to appear some other place to make the field balance. So therefore the appearing thing and the disappearing thing has some common qualities. But very difficult to say, is it the same thing disappearing here and appearing here? Something like if you look at active water pool, some whirlpools are appearing and disappearing due to the turmoil. So some are disappearing, some are appearing. Both of them of the same pool, exactly the way the Vijnana is arising. There are some continuity as a being, as far as that particular being accept. This is permanent. This is self. This is pleasure. The Buddha is asking us to don't claim this as me, mine and myself. Don't consider this as permanent. Don't consider this as pleasurable. Don't consider this as a self. If that is the case, whatever the attribution this Vijnana is having, it is then and there disappearing. But if you claim this is me, this is mine and this is myself, or permanent, pleasurable and soul-like thing, you are really claiming the content of the Vijnana. So therefore, it's a very transient thing, very grey area, very difficult to give a right or wrong answer. Moment you take, you will either fall into the Uchchedavada or Sassatavada. That means eternalism or nihilism. Without falling into that, very difficult to answer this question. So, but anyway, I accept if you go to a Abhidhamma analysis, definitely you can find a crystal clear answer. Or in the commentaries you may have, but I have not gone into say it is yes or no. I still try to understand in meditation, as and when the boredom arises, as and when the fear arises, as and when anything happens, how my reaction is. Is it a persistent thing or can I change it? I am under the impression I can change. That is why I am meditating. If it is a permanent thing, I have no hope. And that is how it happens, the Freudian analysis of psychoanalysis. He analyzed it, but he never came out with a lasting answer. It is discontent. But the Buddha, he says, don't accept them as something proved theoretically. Keep it as something to be observed further and arrive at a inference. How can? So it is like two electrodes are there. When the tension is there, the electric spark is continuous. That is what happened in the bulb. There is no continuity of the spark, then and there it happens. It is exactly happening in the candle. It appears like continuity, but there is no continuity, it's then and there burning. Mahasi Sayadaw says, in the darkness, if you take charcoal, gini penelata මොකක්ද කියන්නේ ඉංග්‍රීසි? Firebrand. If you turn it firebrand, in the darkness you feel a circle. At a distance, you feel a circle. But definitely you know there's no circle, it's only firebrand. And if you're turning into such a fast speed, it appears like a circle. And he says if you hang a very huge sandbag on a ceiling, and if you make a hole, when the sandbag is swinging, accordingly the sand will fall and make a line. If you turn this way, line will go. If you rotate it, it rotates. But if you see, it appears like a thread, appears like a line, but it's a collection of sands. There's no line as such. The line is the name we attribute to that, but it's just a pattern of sands. So likewise the vijnana is then and there appearing. When it is going in a way, more and more dots happen, we consider it as a line. That is the camouflage, that is the Maya, that we consider as something existing or something permanent and something against the time and the space. That is what happens when you see a line of ants. At a distance you feel like it's something permanent or like a root or like a thread. But if you go closer and closer, you see it is moving. And if you still go closer, you see ant is following by another ant, but there's no line. There's no permanent thing. Once you remove the ants, no landmark. That is what we call kshanabhangurata, or the fragile nature of the time, the fragile nature of the matter. So in the meditation, when the mindfulness and the concentration happen, you thin slice the time and analyze the matter as tiny as possible. More and more you cut into thin slices, they become a transient. More and more you cut into the small pieces, they become just energies. There is no particular shapes and manners. So that is what we call Vibhajyavada in Theravada tradition. Just like a laser beam, we penetrate into. Therefore, the persistency and consistency, they are created words. But if you go and see, there's no such a continuity. But of course, the continuity of the foolishness is there. I tried focusing the beginning of the breath and the out-breath. It led down to the two small vibrations. It was not possible to see what was the day, which was the in-breath or which was the out-breath. The vibrations arose from a void, like a void, like a jhana. There was only awareness. I did the same thing with... Yeah.
Venerable Sir, I tried focusing on the beginning of the in-breath and out-breath. It led down to two consecutive small vibrations. It was not possible to say which was the in-breath or the out-breath, only vibrations. The vibration arose from a void like a jhana. There was only awareness. I did the same thing with defilements.
Defilements, yes.
Both the defilement and the object seemed to arise together. Rarely I felt the defilement preceding the object, as if the mind was trying to rationalize the emotion. Please comment.
Very good, that's all I have to say. That is my comment. If this is the thing happening, this is what you have to experience it, but only humble request is, repeat it again and again, then you will not ask question, you will get confirmed yourself. This is what you call meditation. Dear Bhante, I can't feel the gap between the in-breath and out-breath as both move so fast. How can I identify the gap? Please explain. Do I have to make an attempt to slow them down? So when I was in UK, I was teaching and to see the in-breath and out-breath and the gap, and it is question of find difficult. So one day, not like you people, they gave me 1 day off to go to and see London town. So that day we told this is not meditation, it's not in-breath and out, mindfulness of the in-breath and out-breath, just husma ganna. Just 1 day for husma ganna. I was going out and just breathe anapana, just London. And then one lady told, when you have to go into the tube and take, and as the train stops, it says, be careful about the gap between the train and the platform. And if you slip into that, it's the end of it. So therefore, he says, definitely you will get another one to explain what is the difference, gap between in-breath and out-breath, just like the train and the platform line. But in-breath and out-breath, you can't, of course, have that kind of a thing. So it is fast, moving very fastly. If you take a book and do all the pages, moving like quickly, you can't see it. One after the other it is going, so it has a flow. But definitely when you do it one by one, you know, due to the fastness, it appears like continuity. That is what happened in the cartoon films. In the cartoon films, there is no animation as such. There are slides. They are moving in a fast manner. When one slide comes and flash to the white screen, and then a flash a darkness, and then again flash another plate, just little displaced, dislodged, and yet another one dislodged, and ultimately when you look at it, it appears smooth moving of your hand like. But if you slow down the projector, then you can see it is no animation smooth. You are the person make it animated, because in between the darkness, you imagine. That is how the animation happens. So therefore, if you go slow motion, and then you can see it is happening. So this question is asking whether to slow down. No, it is not an advisable thing to slow down the breath in order to see the gap. You just see this is in-breath and out-breath. And try to experience this is out-breath, not in-breath. This is in-breath, not out-breath, like discriminate at least the two peaks. And then just see how these characters are developing. Try to see as and when it is arising, just like you are looking at the rising of the sun. First the dawn happens, and then slightly the sun appears, ultimately it becomes bright sun. And when it is setting, the sun disappears, and then the light disappears. Like that, everything have its own the gradual arising and gradual falling. Then only the mind becomes sharp, the concentration and the mindfulness. Then you can see how these things are, perceptions are shifting each other. So it's a task. It is, mechanically you can't do it. Once the mindfulness comes into being, concentration comes, not only the in-breath and out-breath, you see this flow, the parquet, all the things appear like one smooth plate, but it made out of small pieces. Everywhere the same. So you may see the gap whenever the meditation taken the momentum in terms of mindfulness and the concentration. Can you please explain what is Cheto Vimukti? This term is the Vimukti. Vimukti means the liberation or emancipation. You can reach it by Samatha method and the Vipassana method. Whenever you reach it in the starting from Vipassana and then to the Samatha, that is called Cheto Vimukti. If you start with the Samatha and then go to Vipassana to the Vimukti, it is called Panya Vimukti. The Vimukti by itself has no taste, but it is the matter of the path you reach. The Vimukti is the only crucial thing in the terminology. Could you please explain the different types of breath? Is the term discernment the English translation of the Yoniso Manasikara? Discernment is called Paricheda or delimitation. The Yoniso Manasikara is translated as the wise reflection. Pata Manasikara, Upaya Manasikara in Pali, wise reflection. And Venerable Jnanananda translated it as the radical reflection. In Sinhala, Yoniso is known as the nuwaning menehi karna. Yoniso is being translated the nuwana, Manasikara is being translated as the menehi karna, nuwaning menehi karna. Discerning means separation, paricheda. Please explain the term sankhara, translated conditioned phenomena in the dependent origination. Conditioned by what? Avijja paccaya sankhara. It is conditioned due to and by the ignorance, the lack of understanding or the darkness. Avijja is the root cause for the sankhara to happen. If there is no avijja, no sankhara. If there is no sankhara, no avijja, they are working in a reciprocal way. The term sankhara has many shades of meaning even within the canon. And therefore, whenever it is translated into English, you find a lot of contextual meaning and the shades of meaning, dispositions, formations, fabrications, and these are the few terms you find in the sankhara. And kaya sankhara, vachi sankhara is called the mental disposition, physical, verbal dispositions like. So, I read one of the English books written by a Sri Lankan Buddhist scholar. He himself accepts, even within the canon, the sankhara take a lot of meanings according to the context. And when it is translated to the English, the translational, the changes, shades of meanings also there. So it is covering a huge area, very difficult to confine or reduce to one meaning. So that's all regarding the English questions.